I'm Amy Summers with Restore Health Consulting. So, what is uniquely interesting about compounding pharmacies and even 503B outsourcing facilities to you and your companies?
Pharmaceutical industry in general was very manual and they had quality issues, they had labor issues, they had all kinds of challenges. The biggest thing that I continue to hear is they can't find people. If you can't bring in labor, you can't produce compounded drugs to bring to the market and help patients.
Meet Adam Crandall, Chief Revenue Officer of Adtronics. Adam is driving commercial innovation across life sciences with Colinar's advanced fill and finish tech, helping compounding pharmacies scale precision care safely and efficiently.
Why has automation become, I think, a more urgent conversation, especially in the 503B space, but even emerging into the 503A space?
Automation doesn't get sick. Robots don't get sick. I think in 2 years, when we talk again, I don't think as a compounder, you're going to be in this space without some form of automation. Like if you're having labor problems right now, you want to have better control over your product. You want to remove the human element.
Looking ahead 5 or 10 years from now, what role do you think the smaller scale, more flexible automation will play in growth of personalized medicine?
In 5 years, you don't have.
Hello, and welcome to Compounding Interest, the business of personalized medicine. I'm Amy Summers with Restore Health Consulting, and I have an awesome speaker here today with me, Adam Crandall. Adam, could you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, good morning, Amy. Thanks for the opportunity. Excited to be here today. My name is Adam Crandall. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Adtronics. Adtronics is a platform currently that is bringing companies together that focus in technology for life sciences, pharmaceutical, med device, and healthcare. And very excited to be on your podcast today because one of the operating companies that Adtronics has acquired back in 2024, Colinar, builds equipment for the compounding pharmacy space, the pharma space, the cosmeceutical space, basically anything when it comes to the fill and finish side of drug production. Colinar specializes in that. So I'm super excited today to be on your podcast, talk to you a little bit about Colinar. As Chief Revenue Officer of the Adtronics platform, my responsibility is to focus on bringing these products to the market and helping grow our market share. Some of these incredible technologies are improving patient outcomes every single day. I feel honored to play a part in that at Adtronics and oversee our sales, marketing, and business development function here. So great to be on.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. And I think you know that I'm a fan of that technology in particular. I've seen at least a few of my clients use it, and I'm personally happy with the throughput and the flexibility. But I didn't want to keep this like infomercially all about, a particular product, but I do think I think a good topic to dive in,
Definitely.
sort of the personalized medicine, but automation. And those seem like, two very opposite things to force together. But I see a potential need for it. So,
Definitely.
getting back to you, you work across manufacturing, life sciences, healthcare, and automation. So, what is uniquely interesting about compounding pharmacies and even 503B outsourcing facilities to you and your companies?
Yeah. So, one of the interesting things is at Colinar, when the founder started it 20 plus years ago, Bernd Stroder came over from Germany and really identified a big gap in the market where, again, pharmaceutical industry in general was very manual and they had quality issues, they had labor issues, they had all kinds of challenges. So he introduced these incredible pieces of equipment and started Colinar to basically help bring drugs to the market faster, bring drugs to the market in a more safe way with higher quality, remove some of the human element so we can make sure that we're abiding by FDA regulations and different regulations in the market. And the past few years, we really saw an opportunity in the market where in the compounding pharmacy space, especially with 503As and 503Bs, there's been a huge need right now to adopt automation. A ton of growth is happening right now in the personalized medicine space.
Yeah.
We're seeing that with peptides. We're seeing that with GLP-1s. We're seeing that with HRT therapy, all kinds of different drugs in the market right now. And when Colinar entered that specific marketplace, we saw an opportunity to help bring more personalized care to patients. And for me, it really hits home because I have family members that, you know, drugs, pharmaceutical grade drugs itself, just it's not a one size fits all, in my opinion. As a patient, we need to have options where we can go to compounding pharmacies and there's specific challenges, health challenges that patients are dealing with in this world. And sometimes large pharma companies can't always meet, demand of those patients. And I think compounding pharmacies itself really fill that space. They do a really nice job of it. And Colinar is really dedicated to now equipping also the compounding pharmacy space with these incredibly, precision devices, these technological devices that are robotic, non-robotic automation technologies to again help these 503A and 503Bs produce compounded drugs in a very safe and very efficient manner so we can continue to improve patient outcomes in the market. So I'm very passionate about that. Colinar is very passionate about that. And I would say just the past 2 years itself, we've seen huge growth in this industry, and we're very excited about the trajectory of it in the medium and long term.
Yeah. So obviously, compounding is built around personalization, but then you've got sterile compounding, and that requires us to, well,
Sure.
try to minimize human intervention. Though, as you said
Yes.
it earlier, we've been doing manual aseptic processing for years. That's how like these personalized sterile therapies were traditionally made, and they're still traditionally made that way in hospitals, for example. But how do you think about that tension about why has automation become, I think, a more urgent conversation, especially in the 503B space, but even emerging to the 503A space, and then also wrestling with that limit of 250 units per batch. But can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a great point. So I would say why it's become extremely important and has really driven the industry to adopt at a faster pace. A few things come to mind for me. Number one, even outside of the compounding space, but specifically in compounders, when I go on site and meet with these different pharmacists, the biggest thing that I continue to hear is they can't find people. Like
Ah,
ever since post COVID, you know,
yeah.
whatever reason, people don't want to work, they've have different aspirations in life now, and the labor force is really difficult to bring into compounding pharmacies as well as other manufacturing facilities that we see across all of Adtronics businesses. So I think that's become an urgent need where specifically in the 503A space is that if you can't bring in labor, you can't produce compounded drugs to bring to the market and help patients. So Colinar has been able to fill that void. And I think technology from an automation standpoint now is being rapidly adopted because of that. The second thing is that with the growth rate now, and there's so much of it happening, how do you produce it and get compounded drugs to the market if you don't have people, but you can't do it in an efficient manner and you can't do it in a cost effective manner? So I feel like these 503As and 503Bs, Amy's, are starting to adopt automation, and they're starting to say, okay, maybe 5 years ago I didn't need it or I didn't want to consider it, and now I'm hearing from pharmacists all over the country, like, look, what solutions do you have? How do we adopt automation faster? Automation doesn't get sick. Robots don't get sick. They can continue to have that consistency and that continuity in their operation. And I think those are the two major things driving that force: the lack of labor right now, and then again, having greater efficiency so they can bring compounded drugs to the market in a better way than they've done previously.
I'm going to probe at you. You said, the machines don't get sick, but do you ever feel that they might break down? And then with that, do you feel that a pharmacy or 503B would then need to have more of like an engineering acumen on site in place of like a typical pharmacy tech?
Great point. So I would say a few things on that. For Colinar itself, we are the only manufacturer of tabletop benchtop systems for the compounding pharmacy space in the US. It's all made in Connecticut, which is pretty rare. I think when I talk to pharmacists and I see these compounders, the first thing that comes to mind that they ask me is, "Oh, so is your operation in Germany? Is it in Asia? Is it in China?" And I'm like, "No, we're in Connecticut." And they're like, "Oh, you mean you have like a facility in Connecticut?" I'm like, "No, it's headquartered in Connecticut. Our technicians, our engineers, they all work in Connecticut. So if we do have a challenge, we have technicians that can be on site within 8 hours. They can be dispatched. They can help, correct any issues or any challenges. But Colinar really goes beyond that. They're not reactive. They don't wait for problems to happen. So what we do is we offer every customer in the compounding space that purchases automation technology with us a master service agreement. So we make sure that we can service the technology, we can do preventative maintenance. And being that our founder is from Germany, we kind of joke, it has the German made quality, but you have that
Okay.
local US service on site. So we don't
Yeah.
have issues when it comes to the quality of the system. It's very high quality. And I would say this, I want to thank the compounding space because a lot of these 503As and 503Bs, they've informed us of the technology roadmap of what they're looking for, what's important to them. And honestly, we've listened, we've incorporated a lot of those pieces of feedback into the technology, And I think that's why we make one of the most robust products for the industry. In addition to that, we actually take time to train the technicians. So you kind of ask, like, do you have to have an engineering acumen? Pharmacists aren't engineers. These are pharmacists. They're filling drugs. They're filling compounded drugs. They're helping
Right.
patients every day. So we actually go on site at Colinar. We bring them to Colinar. We do a training for as many days as they need. We train them on the equipment. And we make sure that before they leave, they know our equipment inside and out. They get a full manual. They can reference it anytime. And then we go on site to their facility. We do a full install with them, and we do another training on site. And as many technicians or compounding pharmacists that are actually wanting to learn that equipment, we take the intimate touch, and I would almost call it the white glove approach of Colinar, our precision care approach, where we actually make sure that they get everything they need to run that equipment in an efficient manner, and they have the ability to call the Colinar team at any time if they have any questions or need to troubleshoot anything.
Awesome. We talked a few minutes ago about how perhaps these types of automations can solve or help ameliorate labor shortages.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm thinking like, capacity, quality, consistency, contamination risks. What types of problems are pharmacies or 503Bs just, oftentimes asking you that, hey, I need this automation to solve this? Like, what are the things that these companies are hoping that automation can solve aside from the labor problem?
Yeah, so I would say there's three major areas that we really help compounding pharmacies in the 503A and 503B space really solve. And I would say number one, the big challenge is automated filling. So you have pharmacists, highly paid, highly specialized, highly educated, that are doing this by hand right now. They can't keep up, number one, but there's an opportunity cost there. Like, they can be meeting with patients, they can be doing other things that are, more meaningful tasks for their pharmacy instead of by hand filling all of these vials, syringes, cartridges, or pens. And the Colinar machine does all four of those types of things. So one of the major things is it's more focused on filling of the drug. We automate that process, and that's a big challenge. The other thing is capping or stoppering. So we hear a lot of challenge of, okay, well, you can fill it automatically, but what do we do to put a stopper in it? Or how do you cap it? We do that as well. So that's another big challenge when it comes to efficiency. We've solved that problem. But the big thing that we just really heard, and we heard this at a pretty big trade show back in March and April, and I think, Amy, I mentioned this to you, and I connected with you there. A lot of 503As are saying, we can't label right now. We can't keep
Oh,
up. We're
yeah.
actually having pharmacists label right now. So a light bulb went off. In the past 90 days, our R&D team spent a lot of time developing the first ever custom labeler for the compounding space. So we actually are getting ready to launch that. We've sold two of these so far, and we're testing these in the market with a few 503As right now. It's going very, very well. And we've heard a lot of complaints again prior to that of, we don't want our pharmacists sitting there and putting labels on vials and syringes. We don't want them doing that. So we've ended up creating a custom labeler for the compounding space. And that was kind of our next product roadmap that we brought to the market, where we've heard a lot of feedback again from these 503As and 503Bs on, okay, filling's a big challenge, capping and stopping is a big challenge, but now we don't want to focus on manual labeling. Can you help us with that? And I think that was kind of the trifecta. Those three major things is what we specialize in. And then in addition to that, we provide, spare parts and consumables, to make sure that if anything does break or go down, they have that on site. So we're trying to be a one-stop shop. And I would say a fully integrated partner to the compounding space, and really help these 503As and 503Bs, continue to have their uptime on their system so they can produce more and more compounded drugs for the market to help these patients that need it.
A curious question. I know we were talking about labeling, but back to filling,
Yeah.
where does or when does manual filling actually then make sense? And when does it begin to break down? Like, why are traditional, pharmaceutical filling lines, they're off not the right alternative. Maybe they're too big, but
Yeah.
like, is there some kind of like right size automation? And like, what does that look like in between those two extremes of manual versus like the big pharma filling line in an isolator? You know, where is that?
It's a great point. Yeah, it's a great question. And the business Colinar that we acquired, they produce isolators as well. They've worked with big pharma on that. And you have some compounding pharmacies, sometimes in the A space, they don't know automation. They kind of look on our website and they go, I think we should have the isolator. That's a beautiful machine. Those machines run a few $1,000,000. And if you've never done automation before, that's overkill. And I feel really good about how Colinar approaches that. We actually will tell a compounder, you don't need this. No, we're not going to sell this to you. It's a great sale for us, but we don't want to give a compounder that's never done automation before an isolator or what we call like a machine that's truly overkill. So I kind of look at it in a few folds where if you're doing only a few custom drugs, sometimes CDMOs or CMOs, they'll
Yeah.
produce, a very small amount of a custom batch drug. You might not need to automate that process. Maybe you're just doing 15 or 20 because, the drug you're actually working on itself, you're only making a very small production batch. You might not need automation. But, I get that question all the time. Compounders will be like, well, how do I know automation is right for me? What production level do I need to be at in order to invest in automation? And honestly, I'm really surprised how many 503As, how many small 503As are actually benefiting. And I think they're shocked when they come to us and they're like, oh, we're too small. No, you're not. Like if you're having labor problems right now, you want to have better control over your product. You want to remove the human element. Automation is right for you. And what kind of happened was, again, Cleanroom looked at that as an innovation opportunity. Most of our filling and capping systems, they can fill to that 250 back size pretty quickly. But there's a lot of companies, right, that say, well, that might be still a little too much. We want to dip our toe in the water right now. We don't really feel like that is where we want to start. So we developed this more compact, very small, truly a benchtop system. It's called the FSC. And it's a semi-automated system where a pharmacist will actually engage with it. They actually will hold the vial, syringe, or
Yeah.
cartridge, and they'll put it up to the system. And they kind of get a feel for what automation's like. And they have some, control still versus going fully automated. So we developed that and we kind of said, look, if your batch size is much smaller, say you're not even meeting the 250 batch size and your production is not that demanding, but you want to introduce automation into your process, you still can't find people, you're kind of taking a more slow growth trajectory. We ended up bringing more of I would say, kind of a gateway machine into the process where we're working with these compounders now to get a feel for what automation does and help them actually say, okay, instead of going, full fledged, we'll start off with this smaller product, understand what automation is, bring it into our process, and then kind of scale from there. And I think when you look at your batch size, your production, your demand, how big your pharmacy is, that could be an opportunity to say, okay, I can start small and slow. We're not producing as many compounded drugs right now. We want to bring automation into our process, and this is how we're going to approach it. And Cleanroom helps compounders do that. They give free consulting to help them kind of pick, and what I would say, right size what automation is correctly aligned for their operation at this current state and time of where they're at.
Curious question. You've talked about, like, at least on this call here, you've talked about three sizes. The semi-auto, where the person is like, putting it up to the filler and then it's taking it back. Then more of like a tabletop filler, and then more of the larger, more traditional pharma-esque sized fill line. Can you talk to me in numbers? Like how much per whatever minute or hour does the semi-automatic one where you present it
Yeah.
versus how much throughput does the, tabletop one that does more of a automation type throughput, and then against that large? Can you tell me like throughput, or can you discuss something like that?
Yeah. So I would say our FSC, which is the smaller semi-automated system itself that is more engaging with the actual pharmacist, it could do anywhere between, say, 6 to 10 a minute, where you're actually having that pharmacist sit there. And I would say, you're feeding it. Literally,
Yes.
you're taking the vial, the
Yeah.
syringe, you're feeding it with a machine, but you're actually watching the
Yeah.
process happen automated in front of you. So it's pretty incredible to see. But you can do that between 8 and 10 a minute. And again, that's where I say compounders, Amy, especially 503As that have never done automation, great starting point. It
Yeah.
gets you the opportunity to understand it, get kind of look and feel. And it's at a really very reliable and cost effective price point to make that initial investment. When you take the step up, which we're seeing more robust compounders, larger compounding pharmacies in the A and the B space,
And the B,
they're
yeah.
and the B as well. Yeah, they're starting to look at what we call our FSM, which is our, syringe, vial, and cartridge filling system. That's a
Right.
pretty big step up. It goes to about 20 a minute is the output from 6 to 10 a minute. So you almost basically triple your capacity. And this is fully automated. You basically set it up. It's done in a nest, 250 batch size, and it runs up to 20, maybe 25 a minute, depending on, again, whether it's syringes, vials, cartridges, pens, does all four of them, by the way. But that's definitely your big step up. It's double to triple your capacity of the semi-automated system. That's honestly the most popular piece of equipment that we're seeing compounders adopt at a rapid pace. Colinar actually sells what we call a full compounding technology line, and that includes our capper and our filler. And again, you don't have to buy both, but you have some compounders that say, well, I want to just start with filling and then I'll do the manual capping because, again, they've never done this before. But as soon as they go in and they start it, they're like, whoa, how do we do automated capping now? So we offer it separately, but typically we've been seeing a lot of 503As and 503Bs purchase that full line, the full compounded line, which includes the filler and the capper. And again, you can do between 20 and 25 a minute. And then we sell much larger lines that can do hundreds, thousands a minute that are producing
Yeah.
rapid output. That's
Yeah.
big pharma, could be very high scale 503Bs. We offer that. We've worked on those with different compounders and bigger pharma operations. But again, we really look at our role as being a partner to compounders. We don't want to sell anything that's overkill. We want to make sure that we are recommending the appropriate level of equipment based on the stage that they're currently growing in right now. And it's great to see that a lot of the customers that have come to Colinar, they're buying repeat machines every single year because they're seeing the value out of it. And one of the things that Colinar is also getting ready to launch is really a new tool where we can actually bring in a ROI calculator to compounders when we do what we call an automation audit. And they can give us, okay, this is your output. This is how many people you have. This is what you're paying your people. And we can actually give them a return on investment report and quickly let them know if you make this investment, this is how quick you will actually pay back the purchase. 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, so they can help, financially justify that purchase and really understand how it's going to impact their pharmacy.
Why do you think many pharmacies or some of the pharmacies you're seeing begin with that smaller semi-automated version? Like, I guess what other benefits can it provide even if it doesn't really dramatically reduce labor?
Yeah. So I think to answer your first question, why pharmacies start with it, a little bit of maybe fear, uncertainty. And we try to help them
Yeah.
overcome that because, again, they've never done it before. Like, if you look at robots, you look at what's changing with AI, everyone gets a little bit kind of apprehensive of the uncertainty. But
Okay.
once you kind of understand it and you see how it impacts your operation, it's not scary. It's actually pretty incredible what it's doing for your operation. So I think people maybe if they don't understand it fully or they want to take more of again, a slow approach, they start that way. We're here every step of the way to kind of help them understand that and what makes sense. But I think that's kind of why we see some compounders say, well, we're going to start slow, which is totally fine. But I would say the other benefits, in addition to labor, is number one, cost savings. You can make your compounding pharmacy become more competitive in the market because, again, you're able to automate. You can either reduce your headcount, you can either reallocate those people to different tasks, which is going to help make your pharmacy more efficient. But I would say the third thing is making sure that the drugs that you're making are the most, human element removed approach that you're taking with automation. Because when you're doing that, less human intervention, less quality issues, less contamination issues.
Yeah.
I mean, Colinar's equipment helps achieve that. And I know with the different regulations with the state pharmacy boards, the different regulations with FDA, they want to see the human element as far away as possible from this. And Colinar helps achieve that. So I kind of look at it again in a few different ways, Amy. It's like you have the labor risk removed, you have cost savings, so you can help your pharmacy be more profitable. But again, number three, you're making a better quality product and you're reducing your regulatory risk. I mean, if you get an FDA audit and they come in and they see a piece of equipment automating your process, I mean, again, that's going to help make your audit go much more smoothly as long as you're following your processes. But that's a way when you work with the FDA or the state pharmacy board to say, okay, we're trying to remove the human element. We're taking initiatives to basically protect patients and doing it in a more efficient and effective manner.
Yeah, I have to admit, I wasn't really wild about your semi-automated one where you have to really be involved in it. But I think for the pharmacies that have a very wide portfolio of formulas or SKUs, maybe that is kind of the right fit for them.
Yeah.
So there's two sides to every coin. My next question is what kinds of limitations should a pharmacy understand before they're selecting, let's say, that smaller filling system? Like what typically causes customers to outgrow that first solution?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting you bring that up because we see a lot of compounders maybe buy the semi-automated system and within
Yeah.
6 months they're like, we've already outgrown it. And I'm like, I know. When we talked to you, we would have loved if you would have started with the higher system. We did the ROI calculation with you. We know your output. I know you're a little apprehensive, but we kind of look at that and say, again, if their output is high, their demand is strong, they have multiple sites, multiple locations, but they're only looking at buying a piece of semi-automated equipment, they're going to outgrow that pretty quick. So we have those conversations up front to really understand, again, what is your production output? How many sites and locations do you have? How many drugs are you compounding? You brought up a good
Yeah.
point. Is it multiple drugs? Is it just GLP-1s? Is it HRT? Is it sterile or non-sterile? We talk to all kinds of compounders and say, well, I'm not involved in sterile drugs. Okay, automation is probably not right for you unless you have a major output issue and you can't find labor. We can still help non-sterile compounding pharmacies, but we also, again, more specialize in the aseptic fill and finish space when it comes to compounding pharmacies that are more focused on sterile production. So I would just say, in summary, compounding pharmacies that have multiple sites, multiple locations, multiple drugs, extremely high output. If you're not familiar with automation, we would bring them to our facility and show them the different machines on our show floor so they can kind of play with it, understand it, touch it. Usually the FSC, which is this semi-automated piece of technology, you're going to outgrow probably within the first few months. And it makes more sense to go to your FSM, which is actually focused on higher output, that 20 to 25 a minute on syringes, cartridges, pens, and vials. And that's the other thing I would say. Are you doing syringes, cartridges, pens, and vials? Or are you just doing vials? Or are you just doing syringes? Colinar's equipment does all four of them. So if you have high output and you also have numerous pieces of production when it comes to that, you should be looking at a higher output type of automation for your production.
We might have already just been talking about this right now, but my next question had been, what should a pharmacy or 503 be evaluating, like batch sizes, dosage forms, package formats, production volume, formulation changes, anticipated growth? How would that help them determine the appropriate automation? But I think you kind of answered it a little bit. For me, as a consultant, what I see in this space is everything's always ever changing. So whatever
For
thing is
sure.
hot today may not be so hot tomorrow, or vice versa. Maybe there's something that was really hot back then, and now we're reviving it because there's some new indication or something on the horizon. So I don't know if we've missed anything. I guess it's your opportunity to chime in on anything else in terms of what a facility should be evaluating when they're trying to make that right choice.
Yeah, so I would say Colinar is part of the APC organization, which is a great organization to understand the regulations, the industry, and where the market is going. And I would advise all compounding pharmacies, including Colinar, we're continuously trying to keep up on the regulations from the FDA, the state pharmacy board rulings. I mean, the compounding pharmacies, I think, need to pay close attention to that because as those regulations change, that kind of dictates what your back size is. We were at a trade show, Amy, a few months ago, and we heard there was some flexibility. And again, I don't know how true it is, can't confirm it, but in Texas, for example, you could do a larger batch size than 250 if you have automation.
Yeah,
And
I
we
heard
kind of
about
heard this,
that.
and I was like, whoa, I don't know, again, what the constraints are, what loopholes there is. But that was a pretty big thing where I started getting a lot of phone calls from compounders in Texas to say, wait a minute, I can do more than 250. Talk to your state pharmacy board, talk to APC. Like, we're not specialists when it comes to regulatory and the regulations. We try to keep up and understand that. But I think make sure that as a compounder, whether you're in the A and the B space, you understand the regulations because it's changing very fast. I mean,
It
just
is.
today and tomorrow, there's a big vote on compounders being able to legally compound peptides. Colinar is very excited to be on the forefront with our equipment to help compounders do that. But again, follow the regulations. Make sure you're doing it legally. Make sure you're following your guidance from your state pharmacy board. So I would just add that's pretty important. Again, the APC is a good resource for that. When it comes to the automation itself, we look at those regulations that are, forever changing. And we're also adapting our technology to make sure that we are helping compounders stay in compliance with the changing regulations. And I personally think this is just something I want to add. 10 years ago, automation didn't even show up in compounding
Yeah.
pharmacies. 5 years ago, people were kind of dipping their toe in the water. Okay, it's interesting.
Some 503Bs, I think, more so than
503Bs,
503As. Yeah.
exactly. Like we worked with a lot of 503Bs before. Right now, I cannot believe how many 503As Colinar is partnering with. And I would just say this if you're a 503A that is not even looking at, or technology when it comes to automation is not on your roadmap right now, you're going to fall behind. I don't honestly know how a compounding pharmacy is going to continue to keep up with the demand, especially if peptides become legal. I don't know how they're going to keep up without automation. So I would just encourage compounders, for the sake of your patients, get the human element out, make your drugs safer, look at automation to keep up with your demand. Look at automation to get your costs down, to remain competitive. Look at automation. I think in 2 years, when we talk again, I don't think as a compounder, you're going to be in this space without some form of automation. I think we're just scratching the surface right now, personally.
I think beyond the filling speed, and that's maybe what you're hitting at, I, as a, patient safety advocate, I'm more excited about, and it sounds corny, but like, I like that you're getting the human out of there. You're not like all up in the critical site business. You're trying to get away
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah,
It's supposed to, improve quality and consistency. But do you think it can also create sort of a false sense of security if your surrounding quality system is not strong? Do you know what I mean?
for sure. Yeah. So we tell compounders when we sell them that equipment, our equipment will help them produce drugs again in an efficient manner, cost effective manner, and it'll help them remove the human element. However, if your other processes are not tight, they're not buttoned up, you're not following your state pharmacy board regulations or guidance from the FDA, our equipment can't save you, right? Like our equipment is not the silver bullet. It helps achieve all of those things, labeling, filling, capping, but you got to make sure that your people are following processes. They're making sure that they're following sterility processes. Do you have the appropriate clean room? We can go in and help look at your clean room and okay, we can, measure your clean room. Yep, your equipment will fit. We can sell you this machine. But when it comes to having the right clean room, the right class and grade clean room, you really should be talking to experts and specialists that will help size your clean room, the right type of filtration in that clean room. So I think if you're not careful, if your other part of your processes in your pharmacy are not buttoned up and tight, maybe it could give you a false sense of security. But I will say this on Colinar side, we're doing everything we can right now to make sure that our equipment is helping these compounders remove the human element, produce these drugs in an efficient manner, and help them basically keep growing with the increasing demand that we're seeing right now every single day.
I actually want to get into this more on the facility and clean room requirements. Which ones do you think are most commonly overlooked when purchasing, a tabletop filler, for example? I'm thinking like your hood size, like you already have hoods, you might already have, I don't know, pumps, the weight of the filling equipment, the structural support, the utilities, the airflow, potentially the possibility that it's not going to fit into your standard hood or even your room. Can
Oh,
we talk about things like, so for listeners, like to just be aware, like, is this even on the table for you, pun intended? Like, is this option or one of these options like even going to work? Or now are you going to have to like, okay, I can't use my LAFW anymore. It's too small. Or can we talk about these requirements that are, I guess, maybe overlooked when they're just making this purchase and then realizing later, like, oopsie, don't have enough room.
that's an incredible point. I mean, one of the biggest is the size constraints, right? Like we hear from 503As all the time, well, my clean room's not big enough.
Yeah,
So one of the things I would say is we do automation audits. Like before they even purchase this, we will go on site. There's no cost. Coroner goes on site. It will
that's cool.
measure the clean room and they'll look at it and say, yep, this can fit. To your other point, the hoods. We see that all the time. The hood's not big enough. It's not powerful enough. It doesn't have the right air filtration. So again, another product roadmap. Compounders were like, we don't have the right hood. Coroner has their own hood now that goes with the system.
What do you mean about it's not powerful enough? Or what do you mean? Like a standard hood that might be across all the, pharmacies in the nation? I don't want to name names, but like your
Yeah.
standard hood wouldn't be powerful enough? What do you mean?
So depending on the hood you buy, we see hoods that compounders purchase, that potentially aren't they're not fitted right, the right size. So when you're actually trying to remove contaminants, you might actually not have the right size hood. So you might not actually have the airflow that you need. So Colinar actually came in and said, you know what? That's a problem. We're going to develop our own hood that goes with our equipment. So I would just again urge all compounders out there, are you sizing the right hood when you purchase a clean room? Do you make sure you have the right technology in that clean room? Do you have the right class of that clean room? But that was one of the things that Colinar heard from compounders was, okay, you have the equipment. Do you have your own hood as well? And our hood is actually fully removable. It's on wheels. So the sterility, the cleanliness of it. Are you cleaning your hoods? Do you have a proper cleaning process? Like, what are you using to clean all the different elements of your clean room and the equipment? We have a whole process and procedure on that as well. And these are again, things that have been informed by the industry for, 20 plus years that Colinar has continued to develop and adapt. So I think definitely a big one that you hit on, Amy, is, are you having the right size of the clean room? Do you have the appropriate hood for that clean room? We're hearing that all the time. And again, Colinar kind of helps measure and make sure that compounders understand, will this piece of equipment fit? Because if it doesn't, again, we don't want to sell you a piece of equipment if you go in and you can't even integrate it into your clean room.
Let's say for fun that the place does have right-sized clean room, and for some reason they have a hood that's perfect. It's a perfect size for this tabletop technology. I
Yeah.
guess my question is, how much flexibility would a pharmacy or 503B have to integrate into their existing, let's say, hood, pump, and then just this tabletop filler just integrates with their existing infrastructure? Is that a possibility? Is there flexibility there?
There is. So Colinar's equipment can integrate with really any hood, again, any clean room. I mean, again, we rely on these compounders to follow the regulations, make sure they have the appropriate clean rooms. But when it comes to our equipment itself, if they have their own hood and if their clean room is large enough, our equipment can integrate with that. Again, we offer that option of purchasing a hood from Colinar because we want to bring that to the market as, again, a fully integrated one-stop
Yeah.
solution, but it's very flexible. And I think a lot of compounders, they'll actually send Colinar the design layout of their clean room. Our team of engineers will look at it and will say, yeah, no problem at all. You have this hood, you have this clean room, here's your dimensions. Not a problem. You can purchase this equipment and it'll fit just fine. So yeah, extremely flexible. If they already have a
Okay.
hood, they already have a clean room built, 95% of the time, it could fit right in there. What I also like to do though is, if a compounder is building a clean room, we like to get in at the front end and say, okay, you want to purchase this before you build the clean room? This is the dimensions you're going to need. Our equipment is this large. This is how much it weighs. This is how big it is. This is the size of it. So they can actually build their clean room to incorporate our equipment in that. But I would say 80%, even 90%, Amy, of compounders that we're working with in A and B space, they already have the clean rooms built. Their operations are already up and running, and we're selling them that equipment, and it's integrating within their existing hoods and their existing clean rooms that they've already built on site.
Because I guess the more nuanced question I had was, it doesn't become this like Franken system where it doesn't exactly work the way,
No,
it had been intended because you're using this pump or this hood, and now all of a sudden there's, some issue, but you're saying that it should be, you know, fine if the fit
yeah,
and the use are okay.
yeah, it's definitely not an issue where you're cobbling things together as you put it in a
Yeah.
Frankenstein system.
Yeah.
As the OEM, we produce the peristaltic pumps, we produce the hood, we produce the filler, the capillary, the labeler. We can provide all of that, but if a company already has, again, the infrastructure set up, we can still bring our equipment in, integrate it into their operation. And that's the other thing. If they have any questions and they're like, well, we have our own hood, how would you integrate this? We can talk them through how you can integrate it. So we do the integration side as well. Colinar actually partners with a full robotics and automation company. It's their sister company called Adtronics Custom Automation. They're part of the Adtronics platform, and they basically bring full custom solutions to the industry. So if a compounder
Okay.
says, okay, I want this standard product, I want this, and this, but, and I would like this, and Colinar doesn't provide that, they actually bring in their systems integration partner, ACA, to help solve any additional challenges for the compounding space, whether it could be a weight check or vision inspection, all kinds of different things that our sister company helps bring to the market as well, that maybe is not included in the standard core products that Colinar provides to the compounding space today. But very flexible, not a lot of challenges when it comes to integration of existing compounding pharmacy infrastructure.
Cool. Let's take a turn to the single-use aseptic assemblies. I'm talking IV bag,
Yeah.
tubing, filter, connectors, filling needle, etc., those kinds of things. So can a pharmacy design and qualify their own assemblies, or do you guys have something that comes, with the equipment that you sell, or can you talk about that?
Yeah. So one of the things I will say is, what Colinar actually provides in addition to the equipment is they provide all the different aftermarket change parts, spare parts, and consumables for the machines. But in addition to that, we actually provide single-use tubing kits as well. So we provide these single-use process equipment. They're pre-sterilized kits. And we provide all of those when it comes to tubing kits for our equipment. If a compounder wants to purchase that, they include the surge bag, the sanitary fittings, the cured silicone supply pumps and tubing seals. We provide all of that as well if a compounding pharmacy needs that. When it comes to needles, the actual pens, cartridges, syringes, vials, we partner with companies and we outsource that, and we work with a partner that will actually provide all of those. So a lot of compounders will be like, oh, well, can we purchase the vials and the syringes from you? We don't sell that directly, but we will bring in a partner to help actually,
Okay.
bring in those different types. So we do make the single use kits. We do sell the pumps, and we basically sell all the different aftermarket consumables and spare parts that customers would need with the machine. But when it comes to, again, the ancillary products that Cleanroom doesn't make, we have a few different partners that we work hand in hand with to provide 503As and 503Bs with the highest level of quality of those parts. Usually we always ask compounders, send us any sample parts that you're currently working with right now to make sure that our machines can integrate if they're currently already working with their own, syringes, vials, cartridges, and pens. So we have a really good understanding of what they're currently working with.
Yeah, I can imagine that's important. I was
It
also
is
just
very,
like thinking about, this is personalized medicine. So, there might
yeah.
be various different types of filters that this pharmacy is going to use, or there might be various, tubing specs that they need to align with. So, on the flip side of that, if they can't use your offerings, or they really want or have these unique assemblies that they require for whatever reason, that can somehow hook into there. And again, avoiding the Franken issue, that they can still hyper customize their single use assemblies in the fill process or line itself.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we have a lot of partners that provide that, but Colinar does provide the single-use tubing kits, and I would highly recommend that compounders look at that. The other thing is, you brought up a really good point: IV bag filling. Adtronics has specialization in IV bag filling as well, so that's another type of equipment that we can provide if there's an IV bag filling need.
Yeah.
The Adtronics platform helps with that. We have expertise on site at Colinar to advise and guide compounders when it comes to IV bag filling systems. So we really provide a full suite of that. But again, when it comes to advisement and guidance, if Colinar doesn't offer the specific product itself, that's like, again, an add-on, something like that. We have many partners, and we're establishing partnerships at a rapid pace right now to make sure that compounders can have resources to any of these questions and things that they may need in addition to the automated equipment.
Yeah. How difficult is it to integrate, let's say, software that, an existing pharmacy or 503B software into this workflow that they're going to, add a tabletop filler to? How difficult do you think that is, or have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a challenge depending on what they're operating on, but I would say this, our machines itself comes with all of our own Colinar software. We do all the programming and all the coding on site. We do all that for our customers, but when it comes to their own system that they have on site, again, we
Yeah.
would walk through and kind of analyze, what are you currently operating with? Why are you using
Yeah.
this system? So if they're looking to, get like data reads and things like that from that, we offer data batch records. We offer all of that with our machinery and equipment. So there's a high level of functionality where we could integrate with their system that they currently have that they're operating with. Again, as batch records and all the data that they need, as well as the actual machine runtime, the OEE, so they have visibility into that. So again, possibly we would have to evaluate what are they currently operating today, but definitely have the ability to integrate and work hand in hand and do a handshake system with their current software that they have on site.
Yeah, because I was just thinking like pharmacies pose an extra layer of complexity. It's not just like a traditional manufacturer. Even the 503B space is more like product focused versus patient focused. So then pharmacies have this added layer, something called dispensing software. So then can you backtrack that to like patient, Amy Summers had this. Can I backtrack it to the batch record that was produced off of some other
Definitely.
format and then
Yeah, there's
yeah.
one of the things, Amy, I would say is we offer again batch record data information with our machines. Some compounders, again, they'll be like, oh, well, we don't want that option or we don't need that. I would
Yeah.
highly recommend they get that. I mean, if you want data on the actual production lot, the batch records that machine is producing, we offer that. And again, when it comes to integration with the actual software on site that a compounder may have, we work with 503As and 503Bs to basically solve that challenge or make sure they have their integration needs met. But there's a lot of options that come again in addition to the equipment. And one of those is data batch records. And definitely that's very valuable. And I think kind of hits home on when compounders are looking to get transparent information from the production runs of these machines. We offer that functionality with each system at Colinar sells.
Cool. You mentioned earlier that you're working on or have an ROI calculator.
Yeah.
And my question is, what should a pharmacy measure beyond technician hours? I'm thinking like rejected units, contamination risk, capacity, consistency, downtime, consumable cost, opportunity cost. I guess maybe that's my question. Like, what should a pharmacy be considering beyond those technician hours? Or what does your
Yeah.
calculator do?
Yeah. No, it's a great point. So again, we've heard a lot of feedback from compounding pharmacies of how do we know this investment is right for me? Why should we invest in this? So we started to develop this compounding ROI calculator that's going to hit the market soon. And what we can basically do is we can walk compounders through an actual ROI analysis. So if you purchase the equipment, now the big first question we hear in the industry is payback. When will the equipment pay for itself? So we're providing compounders now with a number. 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. So they physically know when they make a serious investment into automation, they have clear transparency into how quick that investment is actually going to pay off that capital equipment. So that's one of the big things we really recommend that they have visibility into and they can focus on. Second big thing is the labor opportunity. How much are you paying your technicians? How many technicians are involved in the manual process? Can you eliminate technicians? Can you reallocate technicians? What's the cost savings there? That's another, big focus that we look at. Do you have any overtime costs that you're right now incorporating into your process because you can't keep up right now? Automation helps remove that. Then we specifically look at things like how many vials per hour are you producing? How many number of technicians does it take to produce that? How many operating hours are involved in that? What's your annual vial production? Even as far as what's your contribution margin? So you look at all of the costs that go into it. And then what we do is we provide them with a really nice summary of the findings of all these things. And then also your quality issues. So do you have any what we call scrap in manufacturing, but how many batches are you throwing out? How many drugs do you have that you're wasting because of quality issues? When you look at that in a holistic way, and we can actually put that into a calculator, which we've done, we can actually give this calculator to a compounder and say, okay, we're eliminating this much waste. This is how much we've saved. We're eliminating this much labor. This is how much we've saved. And then I would say, lastly, the big thing is opportunity cost. A lot of people don't think about that. They just look very granular and say, okay, well, I'm saving this much labor. I'm saving this much, waste. I'm saving this, I'm saving that. But what are you giving up by not being able to actually produce or provide more supply to the market? We actually can put that in the calculator as well. We've done that where they say, well, wait a minute, if I had automation, I could sell X amount more. Okay, well, what is that worth? How much are you selling this for? And then we can actually tie that into our ROI calculator. So again, no charge. We do this for the industry because Colinar is very passionate about compounding. They want to help these compounders. Even if you don't know what that looks like, reach out to them because they can help you and really walk you through that process and say, this is how quick you'll pay it off, but these are all of the benefits. And this is actually the overall, net ROI. And this is the opportunity cost that you might be actually leaving on the table right now by not investing in automation.
Yeah. I think we're almost done. I have just a couple more questions left for you. Looking ahead 5 or 10 years from now, what role do you think the smaller scale, more flexible automation will play in growth of personalized medicine?
Yeah. So I think I made a statement before, Amy, and I'll kind of maybe circle back to that. I don't know how, as a compounding pharmacy, as a healthcare provider, in 5 years, you don't have automation fully integrated into your process. Again, when it comes to risk reduction, when it comes to improved quality, when it comes to improved efficiency, and even when it comes to this crazy world we're living in right now with AI, we're seeing job cuts all over the place right now. We're seeing the big shift away from manual labor to automation. If you're not doing it right now, your competitors are. So in 5 years, where I see this going is I see a significantly higher adoption rate of automation. I see better patient outcomes because of it. I think right now, again, if peptides do get approved, I think right now there's a bunch of companies that are waiting to produce it. And I don't know how you do it manually. I don't know how you personally keep up with it. And I think when you say that word personalized medicine, automation may make that feel like, oh, well, if you're removing the human element, how does it stay personalized? I actually think it makes it more personalized because, again, these pharmacists that are producing these drugs, patients are relying on these drugs to be safe, have the right efficacy, make sure that they're getting the highest quality drug. And I know me personally, when I evaluate it, even with my own family that look at it, I call around and I say, okay, do these compounders use automation before I look at this? For just an example, my son has eczema. Again, compounding pharmacy, he gets eczema cream from a local compounder in North Carolina. I started thinking, I go, okay, if I, need a testosterone one day, I'm 40 years old, well, I need that one day as my testosterone levels drop. I want to make sure that I know a compounder that I'm working with is using automation equipment because it's helping take the human element out. So I think in 5 years, patients are going to start demanding that. Like patients right now, they're just getting their compounded drug, but smart ones are starting to ask, what's your process look like? How are you making my drug? So I think in 5 years to that question, it's going to be adopted at a rate we've never seen before when it comes to automation. And that's why Colinar is at the forefront of it because we see it right now.
Sure. Interesting. Last question for the pharmacy owner or 503B owner who recognizes the need for automation but feels a little intimidated either by the cost or complexity. What's the first step that you'd encourage them to take?
Yeah. So first and foremost, like get in touch with Colinar. They got this family feel going on. It's a really cool company. It's, 30 to 40 people. They have that white glove approach. And even if you just have questions, just pick up the phone, go to their website. They're happy to just kick the tires with you and be like, okay, what are you dealing with? What are you worried about? Whether you want to come on site, get your hands on the equipment, or just even talk through, like you just said, I'm just curious, like about automation. We're hearing a lot about it, but we don't know about it. Get in touch with Colinar, do some research on the web, look at what compounders are adopting right now when it comes to automation. Reach out to APC. We're a partner with APC. We're a member of APC. You can talk to them and they can give you some education around it. But yeah, we stand ready just to even give, again, education and do even an automation audit. If you want us to come to your compounding pharmacy and just see what you're doing and go, are we on the right path? What do you think about this? It can be intimidating. And I would just urge compounders, don't let that fear of uncertainty or unknown stop your journey of automation or adopting automation. Because again, your competitors are doing it. Your patients are going to appreciate it. And ultimately, it's just going to make your operation much better. So they can go to Colinar.com. They can reach out to Colinar, and they have specialists waiting right now to help these people understand what it actually looks like and what the roadmap looks like.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adam, for today. I really enjoyed our conversation. And thanks for listening, everybody.
Appreciate it,
Bye.
Amy.